Hi, I would like to point out how ridiculous I look with this on my head. And this, I would like to tell everybody, looks like a robe, but in fact, it is this. It has a nice little snap on it. It has silver. It is called a grounding sheet. The problem is that this eye is having trouble, and I've been up for a little while so I can sort of think. But I want to bring out to you that there may or may not be something wrong in this house besides the fact that they are attacking me. There may or may not have been somebody that came over and put something under the kitchen sink. They could even put it in a house like my father's to take him out slowly. They could put a mold, they could put a mildew, they could do something that will take your immune system down on purpose and have trouble detecting it. They may or may not do something to radiate your brain or to try to make you look insane by doing things like this to try to protect yourself, which may or may not actually work. So, I have a bunch of different products that I'd like to demonstrate. This is a robe blanket. It's sort of soft. It has a little bit of it. This is a lighter weight one, which is easier because it's sort of hot for me. And stuff gets off, and I fell asleep without having these things on me. Okay. And even with these things on me, I still can get hurt. They can do things to compensate for what you've eaten. They can monitor what you've eaten and what you've done, like if you've had dessert or not. They can know. Listen, my brother likes to eat dessert. And if he works for the military and he's a contractor and he eats dessert and it affects him in the way that he can sleep and he can work, then that is a problem, isn't it? If somebody is radiating his head or they're doing something to me while I'm in bed because of my brother's job, who can I go to say something to? What if my dad really worked for, we're going to put this on. Let's say my dad worked for the CIA, except for he was an undercover agent in some way. And let's just say that they killed him before he could pick up his security check. With deepest regrets, we have no idea because there are 50-year NDAs, and when people are told not to say, you have no way of actually knowing what's happened. That's the problem that we have in this country. This channel belongs to my father, who I love and who I want to honor. My dad would want me to be dressed in my best, except for it's the middle of the night. It's 3:37 and we need an arrest. We need to arrest whoever put our best men in space and in a bad place and didn't take care of them or didn't make the records for anyone to know. Okay. How about the people on Earth that don't have a blanket or a place to go because they did not get their paycheck or their family did not get their paycheck? I'm pretty sure that my dad would have wanted me to get his paycheck. And I'm pretty sure that he's sad to see that I don't have somewhere to go because some people in my family did not have integrity. That was the family motto, is integrity. You know, but some people justify taking another person's throw blanket because they think that they deserve it. Here's the thing. I'm having trouble, and I like to look good. But the problem is, when you look good, people don't understand that there's a problem. But if you look bad, then people don't want to listen either, which is sad. Okay? That's the problem. The light even bothers me. In the morning, the sun coming in bothers me. I was shopping online when I fell asleep, and I'm going to call my own phone, and we're going to start getting something done. So I'm totally suppressed on this channel, but I'm going to leave it up like the rest. Because that's the point. If I die, or if I don't die, I'm going to have a record public. It doesn't come down. Is John Kerry out there? Where did John Kerry go? My other phone, it might be under a throw. Did you have a favorite blanket you like?
The wireless customer you are calling is not available.
I want to talk about my grandfather who used to take us to dinner all over town. Why? He didn't want my grandmother to have to do all the cooking. This is another EMF. I like these ones because it's very clear why I'm wearing them. Okay? It's very clear. Maybe the Indian population knew something when they're putting gemstones over their third eye. That's what my dad would probably cry. He would have never known we had a sticker that we could have bought like this. The thing is, this kind of technology existed back when my dad was alive. There's tents, little pop-up tents that you can buy to help to keep off these bad things. I'm really having trouble thinking. That's what they want. I'm just going to sit here and chop for a while. They wanted my live biometrics. That's what they wanted. So they could hit me up better. So I guess they just got it. But I want to bring up that my dad, he had this one sweater. It was brown, and he kept it for a really long time, and he got it in town. And my grandmother, when his sleeves wore out, she made patches that were made out of leather. My town had some really great places to shop. Quality clothing is what my grandmother got. And that's the kind of person my dad was too. My grandfather, Stanley Miller, as well. And they would be horrified to see me in like this, but at the same time, they would want me to not miss my opportunity to address the situation quickly, as soon as possible, as well as possible, and as fast as possible, which meant I dress like this and try to be transparent, which is integrity, which is what my family stands for. I went to high school with many people, and sometimes somebody's name comes to your mind like a steeple. It just sticks right up. You don't know why. For me tonight, it's Sheila Tippy. Sheila Tippy, his family lived across the street from the school I went to that got closed down. Sheila Tippy went to my church, but not that much. Sheila Tippy was a shot putter. Sheila Tippy was not the person that I knew very well, but she's a person that grew up near me. How many people do you know who grew up near you? Do you know what happened to them? Do you think that they're well? How will you tell? How would you find somebody like a Sheila Tippy if you didn't still have her phone number or her email or her cell phone number? There's no 411 anymore that you can call without going directly to somebody's door. Maybe you call DoorDash. That could be a good idea, said Tanya, to anyone who doesn't want to actually go somewhere but would like to figure out if somebody lives there and find the address online. And then you ask the driver. So there are many hats that you can buy that are EMF protection. And I need to find some more that would be a good selection for me. The problem is I don't really want to wear all these clothes because they get hot. And right now it's the season where you turn the air conditioning off, but you don't really have the heat on. It's just a little warm for me here. Now I'm going to decide what to buy. And I want you all to know that it's not a problem to cry. Because you need to release your emotions inside and tell people the truth. Can we talk about Duluth? So let's just Google some stuff tonight. There's like places that have, like Springfield, and there's a town named Springfield. That's why it's in that cartoon. Because there's more Springfields in the United States than any other town. Okay. How many Springfields are there in the United States? How many cities, towns, or counties have the word Springfield in them?
According to the U.S. Geological Survey, there are 93 populated places named Springfield in the United States. This includes cities, towns, and other populated areas. While there are many places with Springfield in their name, the most well-known are Springfield, Illinois, the state capital and home of Abraham Lincoln; Springfield, Massachusetts, the first Springfield settled in the U.S. city in the state; Springfield, Missouri, the most populous city named Springfield in the United States; Springfield, Oregon, widely believed to be the inspiration for the fictional town in The Simpsons. The name Springfield is a famously commonplace name, which is why it has been used in many television shows and movies to represent a generic American town.
Okay, so this is only listing for, I felt that there was more, but this is not always the most accurate machine. Let's try something else. How many Duluths are there in the United States? Is there a Duluth, Illinois? Is there a Duluth?
There are a handful of places in the United States with Duluth in their name. The most well-known are the two cities, Duluth, Minnesota, a port city on Lake Superior, and the largest and most famous Duluth, Georgia, a suburb of Atlanta. In addition to these, there are also a few smaller, less populated places, including unincorporated communities and ghost towns. Duluth, Kansas; Duluth, Nebraska; Duluth, Washington.
Duluth, Nebraska, and Duluth, Washington, and Canada. Interesting. So that's 5. Why didn't Simpsons use that? What is the most popular name for a city in the United States that has the most cities, counties with that name?
The most popular city name in the United States, which also has the most cities and towns with that name, is Washington.
Oh.
Various sources cite that there are between 87 and 91 different cities and towns in the U.S. named Washington, in honor of the first president, George Washington.
Interesting. That actually kind of makes sense. Okay. Could you please tell me about Sheila Tippey?
Based on the provided context, the name Sheila Tippey is not mentioned. However, there is information about a person with a very similar name, Sheila E., whose full name is Sheila Cecilia Escovedo. Here is what the provided information says
That
about
sounds
Sheila
nothing
E.
like it.
She is an American singer, songwriter, and musician, often called the Queen of Percussion. She was born on December 12, 1957, in Oakland, California. Her mother is Juanita Gardere, and her father is percussionist Pete Escovedo. She began her music career in 1976 as a percussionist for the George Duke Band. She became widely successful after releasing her debut album, The Glamorous Life, in 1984. She has collaborated with many artists, including Prince, Herbie Hancock, Marvin Gaye, Beyoncé, and Lionel Richie. Some of her notable songs include The Glamorous Life, A Love Bazaar, and Holly Rock.
What is the most common name for a mountain man in theater productions, in films, in real life?
There isn't one single name that is definitively the most common for a mountain man, but a few names appear frequently in historical accounts, films, and cultural representations. The names often used tend to be simple, rugged, and sometimes old-fashioned. Here's a breakdown of some of the most prominent names and why they're so well known. Jeremiah. This name is most famously associated with the film Jeremiah Johnson, starring Robert Redford. The character is a fictionalized version of a real-life mountain man, John Liver-Eating Johnston. The movie's popularity made Jeremiah a quintessential name for a mountain man character. Jim. The name Jim is extremely common in real-life mountain man history. Famous historical figures include Jim Bridger and Jim Beckworth. The simplicity and commonness of the name make it a natural fit for a rugged, no-nonsense frontiersman. John. Similar to Jim, John is a frequent name in both real life and fiction. Notable historical figures include John Colter, one of the first mountain men, and the aforementioned John Liver-Eating Johnston. The name is a classic, no-frills choice that fits the archetype. Hugh. Thanks to the film The Revenant, the name Hugh Glass has become one of the most recognized names in mountain man lore. Glass
Who
was a
knew?
real-life frontiersman who survived a bear attack and trekked over 200 miles to safety. While other names like Kit, Carson, and Jedediah Smith are also famous, the names Jeremiah, Jim, John, and Hugh are particularly common in a variety of contexts, making it difficult to pinpoint just one as the most common. However, due to the enduring popularity of the film, Jeremiah is arguably the most culturally iconic name for a fictional mountain man.
Okay. Could you please tell me what the name Dirk means? Any favorite Dirks? Any famous Dirks? Any Dirk mountain men? Any Dirk miners? Any Dirk spacemen? Any Dirk presidents?
The name Dirk, or the similar sounding Dirk, has a couple of different meanings depending on its origin. It is a Germanic and Dutch name, often a shortened form of Diederik, which itself comes from the Gothic name Theodoric. In this context, it means ruler of the people. The name can also have a German origin, with the meaning of dark. While there are no famous Dirk the Mountain Man, Dirk the Miner, or Dirk the President, there are several notable individuals named Dirk in other fields. Dirk Benedict, an American actor famous for his roles as Lieutenant Templeton Faceman Peck in the 1980s TV show The A-Team, and as Lieutenant Starbuck on Battlestar Galactica. Sir Dirk Bogarde, a renowned English actor who was one of Great Britain's most popular leading men in the 1950s. Dirk Vermaat, a Belgian astrophysicist, and the first Belgian citizen to travel into space. He flew aboard the space shuttle mission STS-45 in 1992. Dirk Kempthorne, a prominent American politician who served as a U.S. Senator from Idaho, Governor of Idaho, and later as the U.S. Secretary of the Interior. The Mountain Man Survival Guide is a video that features a person named Dirk Ross, who is referred to as the Mountain Man. YouTube video views will be stored in your YouTube history, and your data will be stored and used by YouTube according to its terms of service.
We have somebody named Dirk who was in our Congress. I'm really having trouble thinking, which is why it's good to have this do some of my talking for me. I really shouldn't have fallen asleep like this. I'm not going to be able to think anymore, and I don't want to have a lisp. Lord, please help me to not fall asleep and to give me grace and protection. And I divorce anybody from getting an inappropriate bodily function motion that will cause them to be exposed in a way that is not good for them. Okay. And it's okay for men when they sleep. It's normal for a man to do certain things when they sleep, right? They shouldn't get hit up by radioactive detection because the government can see what you're doing in your sleep from satellites and your biometrics. We should all be able to have our love and our blanket and our privacy and our checks. How many people went to space that we don't know about? Do you think nobody went to space in the last 50 years, really? Basically, that's pretty much what we say, but how many people do we pay? How many people do we pay for the space program today, directly, indirectly, with NASIX, with Space Force, with the Air Force, with executive services? How many military space doctors are there, and facilities in Wright-Patterson and more?
The number of people involved in the U.S. space program is complex to calculate due to the direct and indirect nature of the work across multiple organizations. Based on available data, here is a breakdown. Direct and indirect employment. NASA. The agency has a workforce of just under 18,000 civil servants. However, a 2023 study found that NASA's activities support a total of approximately 304,803 jobs across the U.S. economy, including contractors, academia, and commercial partners. Space Force. As of late 2024, the U.S. Space Force had approximately 9,000 military personnel. Air Force. While the Air Force is a separate branch, it has a significant role in supporting space operations. A large number of Air Force personnel are involved in space-related activities, although a precise number is difficult to pinpoint as the lines between space and air operations can be blurred. In a 2023 report, the total employment in the U.S. space sector, including NASA and military roles, was estimated to be 222,300 positions. This number likely includes Air Force personnel and others in space-related roles within the Department of Defense. Executive services. This is a broad category, but the work of the National Space Council and other government agencies and departments also contributes to the space program. There is no specific number available for this group, as it is a small part of a larger government workforce. Military space doctors. The term military space doctor is not a formal designation, but it refers to medical professionals who specialize in aerospace medicine. These are often military flight surgeons. The Air Force plays a key role in providing medical support for the Space Force. One report from early 2021 mentioned a specific team of 17 members who support the medical needs of Guardians. The Air Force's 88th Medical Group at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio is one of the largest medical facilities in the Air Force and includes a flight medicine department. While the exact number of personnel specializing in space medicine is not public, it is a significant facility that trains and supports a large number of medical professionals, including physicians, dentists, and other specialists. It is important to note that these numbers can fluctuate due to new missions, budget changes, and a dynamic workforce. The exact number of people, paid for the space program is a moving target due to the intertwined nature of direct government employees, private contractors, and military personnel across multiple branches and agencies.
Okay, wow. That was. Did you hear some of these numbers? 304,803 So 304, 803 jobs for NASA to have basically nobody publicly going up there. Who believes this shit? Space Force. We have 9,000 people that we're publicly talking about. 222, 300, an Air Force that have something to do with the Space Force. Executive services, we're just going to flip over that. So it doesn't say this. Guardians, let's ask what the Guardians are. Could you tell me more about the Guardians and the 17 members that support the medical needs for the Guardians and what they actually do for the Space Force or in space or for technology for the human race?
Who are the Guardians? Guardians is the official name for all military personnel in the U.S. Space Force, similar to how the Army has soldiers and the Navy has sailors. The U.S. Space Force was established in 2019 as a new branch of the armed services, and its mission is to protect U.S. interests in space. Guardians work in a variety of roles to achieve this mission, including satellite operations. They operate the satellites that provide GPS, communications, and intelligence for both military and civilian use. Cyber defense. They protect critical space systems from cyber attacks. Space domain awareness. They track objects in space, like other satellites and debris, to prevent collisions and monitor potential threats. Acquisitions and engineering. They are involved in designing, acquiring, and launching new space systems. Their work is essential for national security, and they operate in a challenging, highly technical, and high-stress environment. The 17-member medical team and their role. The specific 17-member team you asked about was highlighted in a 2021 news report. It was part of a larger medical support structure provided by the U.S. Air Force, which maintains the medical mission for the Space Force. This particular team's role was to ensure that Guardians were mission ready. Their work is critical because of the unique nature of space operations. Unique stressors. Guardians often work in ground-based facilities, but the demands of their jobs, long hours, intense concentration, and the pressure of no-fail missions create specific medical and psychological stressors.
No-fail
Maintaining
missions.
human
We have
performance.
missions.
Unlike traditional combat roles, the focus is on
I'm still having
optimizing
trouble with
cognitive
my
and
eye.
physical performance in a limited physical activity environment. This requires a different approach to medicine, distinct from aerospace medicine.
Really not feeling
While
well.
there is overlap, the military distinguishes
It's
between
not okay.
aerospace
I had
medicine, which is
encephalitis
focused
as
on
a
air
kid,
crew, and
and
space
it's not
medicine,
right for them
which
to
is
hit me
centered on
up.
the needs of both manned and unmanned space
Permanently is
operations.
giving me
This
problems.
includes the medical needs of Guardians on Earth, as well as future astronauts. What they do for the Space Force, in space, and for the human race. The medical team supporting Guardians perform a wide range of tasks. Medical readiness. They ensure that all Guardians are medically fit to perform their duties. This includes regular checkups, physicals, and specialized care. Human performance optimization. They focus on a holistic health approach that goes beyond simple physical fitness. This model emphasizes 8 areas of well-being: physical, financial, spiritual, preventative care, environmental, nutritional, psychological, and social. Research and innovation. The challenges of space medicine for both ground-based Guardians and astronauts push the boundaries of medical research. The lessons learned from addressing the effects of low gravity, radiation, and isolation on the human body have direct applications for advancing medical knowledge on Earth. Technology development. Medical teams are involved in the development of new technologies, such as wearable devices for continuous health monitoring, to enhance the readiness and long-term health of Guardians. In essence, these medical professionals are the human systems experts of the Space Force. They ensure that the most critical part of the space program, the people, are healthy, resilient, and ready to meet the demands of a new era of space warfare and exploration, which in turn safeguards the space-based technologies that are vital for modern society.
Okay, wow. You think nothing's going on in space, really, people? What U.S. senators and congressmen oversee the space race, the space and human, space technology, space in general?
The oversight of U.S. space policy, including NASA and human space technology, is primarily conducted by specific committees in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. These committees are responsible for authorizing and appropriating funds, conducting hearings, and shaping the direction of the country's space programs. Senate. In the Senate, space policy falls under the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. This committee has a subcommittee dedicated to the topic, the Subcommittee on Aviation, Space, and Innovation. Committee Chair, Maria Cantwell, DWA. Ranking Member, Ted Cruz, RTX. Subcommittee Chair, John Hickenlooper, DCO. Subcommittee Ranking Member, Cynthia Lummis, RWY. These senators, along with the other members of the subcommittee, are directly involved in overseeing NASA, national and civil space policy, and aeronautical research and development. House of Representatives. In the House, the primary committee with jurisdiction over non-military space activities is the Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. This committee has a dedicated subcommittee on space and aeronautics. Committee Chair, Frank Lucas, ROK. Ranking Member, Zoe Lofgren, DCA. Subcommittee Chair, Mike Herodopoulos, R. Florida. Subcommittee Ranking Member, George Whitesides, DCA. This committee and its subcommittee are responsible for authorizing and overseeing NASA's budget and programs. They also have jurisdiction over the National Science Foundation, NSF, and the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, OSTP. It is important to note that the committees and their leadership can change with each new session of Congress. The members listed above reflect the most recent information available.
You know what? It occurred to me I should have been recording myself on my phone while I'm doing this too, so that I can put it up on a different channel for you. All right. Let's do that. Hello and welcome to the show. I was woken up a little while ago and I'm not feeling well. I have an EMF sticker on my forehead and I have another one right here. I am actually sporting a covering that is made out of silver. It's a silver grounding sheet. I'm putting it around me right now because I wasn't feeling well and I have an EMF throw too. So we need to protect myself when I sleep and my head because they are in fact attacking me in bed. Why are they attacking me? We don't totally know, but we've been doing some investigation here. And I did just do this on another channel, and we are just documenting some of what has been looked up here that we wrote about NASA and having huge amounts of people that work for them. We're just documenting it. You can see this. Huge amounts of people. What I want to know is how we can honestly think there's hardly nothing going on in space. Because they have all these people working on medical and the human race, but in fact, they are not saying that we have people in space. They just say, we're preparing to go to space. Does anybody really believe that? Okay. So, what does it take to get a new position in Congress for the territory of space? I believe that somebody should be representing space and the human race in space. And I personally nominate myself for this position.
That's an ambitious and fascinating idea. The concept of a congressional position for a new territory of space raises a number of complex constitutional and political questions. Here is a breakdown of what would need to happen and why it's a unique challenge. 1. The constitutional framework. The U.S. Constitution outlines how members of Congress are elected and what they represent. House of Representatives. The Constitution apportions seats in the House based on the population of each state. Representatives serve the people of a specific, geographically defined district within a state. Senate. Each state has 2 senators, regardless of population. They represent the state as a whole. U.S. territories. Unincorporated U.S. territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands have a non-voting delegate or resident commissioner in the House. They can introduce legislation and serve on committees, but cannot vote on the final passage of a bill. These territories are created and governed by Congress under Article 4, Section 3 of the Constitution. For a new position to be created, one of 2 things would have to happen. Space becomes a U.S. state. This is highly unlikely. It would require a large, permanent, self-governing population in space, and Congress would have to pass an enabling act to set the terms for statehood. Space becomes a U.S. territory. This is a more plausible, though still remote, path. Congress would have to pass legislation to define a territory of space and establish a form of government. This would likely be a non-voting delegate position, at least initially. 2. The political and legal hurdles. The idea of a representative for a non-geographical territory is unprecedented in U.S. law. To get a bill passed through Congress to create this position would require broad consensus. You would need a majority of both the House and the Senate to agree on the necessity of such a position. This would be a difficult task, as many in Congress may view it as a symbolic or unnecessary measure, especially when there are no permanent residents in space. Addressing legal questions. The legislation would have to define what representing space actually means. Who would you represent? The handful of astronauts on the International Space Station? The private citizens who might live in future space habitats? The human species as a whole? The legal and administrative challenges of defining this constituency would be immense. Amendments to federal law. Many federal election laws and campaign finance rules are based on the idea of geographic districts. Creating a position for a non-geographic constituency would require a series of amendments to these laws. How you could personally pursue this goal. While the path to creating a new congressional seat is a long shot, you can still advocate for the cause and nominate yourself for a position that doesn't yet exist. 1. Become an advocate. Start a campaign to build public support for the idea. This could involve creating a movement, writing a book, doing media appearances, and building a strong online presence. 2. Lobby Congress. Reach out to the members of the committees that oversee space policy, the ones mentioned in the previous answer. Present your case for why a representative for space is necessary. You can also meet with your own representatives and senators to explain your vision. 3. Run for a traditional office. A more realistic path to influence space policy would be to run for an existing congressional seat. This would give you a platform to push for space exploration and human expansion into space. Once elected, you could seek a position on the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, or the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. From that position, you could introduce legislation to create the new territory of space and argue for its representation in Congress. Your passion for this idea is a powerful starting point. While the constitutional and legal obstacles are significant, the process of advocating for this position could help raise public awareness of the future of human expansion into space.
Thank you. All right, so I would like to know what actually in the United States qualifies somebody as being a permanent resident, and how do you create a permanent residence?
In the United States, permanent resident is a specific legal status, and it's not something you can simply create for yourself. It is formally known as being a lawful permanent resident, LPR, and it is granted by the U.S. government.
I want to point out I'm actually having trouble talking, and my eye is still bothering me, which is really bothering me. And I want to mention that it's 4:11 a.m. on October 1st, and that somebody was remotely doing something to try to disturb my brain or to take down my energy field. And it's not okay. It's not okay. I don't know why. It's not okay. Let's keep going.
A person with this status is issued a permanent resident card, more commonly known as a green card. Here's what qualifies someone as a permanent resident, and the general process for how that status is granted. What qualifies someone as a permanent resident? To qualify, an individual must meet the eligibility requirements set by the Immigration and Nationality Act. There are several main categories for obtaining a green card. 1. Through family. This is the most common way. A U.S. citizen or an existing lawful permanent resident can sponsor certain relatives. This includes immediate relatives, spouses, unmarried children under 21, and parents of a U.S. citizen who is at least 21 years old, and other family members under a preference system. Unmarried adult children, married children, and siblings. 2. Through employment.
In space.
The U.S. government offers green cards to foreign nationals who meet certain employment criteria. This can include priority workers, individuals with extraordinary ability in the sciences, arts, education, business, or athletics, outstanding professors or researchers, or multinational managers or executives, professionals with advanced degrees, individuals with advanced degrees, or who have exceptional ability in the sciences, arts, or business, skilled workers, professionals, and other workers, individuals with a job offer that requires a certain level of skill or education. 3. As a refugee or asylee. An individual who has been granted refugee or asylee status in the U.S. can apply for a green card after they have lived in the country for at least 1 year. 4. Through the Diversity Visa DV Lottery. This program makes a limited number of visas available each year to people from countries with historically low rates of immigration to the United States. 5. Special immigrant categories. There are a variety of other, smaller categories for specific groups of people, such as religious workers, juveniles who have been abused or neglected, or victims of human trafficking.
This is really not what we wanted. So we're going to keep going. Could you please tell me what it says about Tanya Walstead Miller and the Space Force and space travel and anything having to do with NASA and anything having to do with inventions, technology?
Based on the available information, there is no direct reference to a person named Tonya Walstad Miller in the context of the U.S. Space Force or space travel. The information available points to the following. Inventions and technology. Tonya Walstad Miller is listed as an inventor on several patents. These patents appear to be related to consumer products, specifically furniture, including a collapsible fish cleaning table and a water-cooled chair. Another patent application is for furniture that has integrated storage for water or other material, intended for an emergency water supply. NASA, the name Tonya Miller, appears as a co-investigator on a list of people associated with a NASA project called ABOVE, Arctic Boreal Vulnerability Experiment. The specific nature of her role as a co-investigator is not detailed.
Can you tell me more about the NASA ABOVE program and Tanya Miller's influence, where she's located, how old she is, how long she's been doing this job, please?
The information available does not provide details about Tanya Miller's influence in the NASA ABOVE program, her age, or her location. The Arctic Boreal Vulnerability Experiment, ABOVE, is a large-scale NASA field campaign conducted in Alaska and Western Canada. The program is a long-term study that started in 2015 and is expected to last 8 to 10 years. Its purpose is to better understand how environmental changes, such as thawing permafrost and shifting ecosystems, are affecting the Arctic and boreal regions. ABOVE links field-based studies with data from airborne and satellite sensors to improve the ability to predict how these changes will impact both the environment and society. The name Tonya Miller appears as a co-investigator on a list of people associated with an ABOVE project. However, the available information does not specify her exact role or contributions to this project, beyond being listed as a co-investigator on a project within the larger ABOVE initiative.
Has Tanya Miller written any books?
Yes, a person named Tanya Miller has written several books. The information available points to an author and life coach named Tanya J. Miller, who has written the following: Mind Matters, and an accompanying journal. Things My Mama Said. The Pro Series, the ME, Motivated Effort Project. Another person named Tanya Miller is listed as the author of...
They spelled it not correctly. Could you tell me about Tanya, Tonia, Miller, and any books that she has written, please?
Information regarding an author named Tonya Miller and her books is limited. There are a few authors with similar names who have written books, but a person named Tonya Miller is specifically mentioned as the author of a travel guide. A person named Tonya W. Miller is listed as the author of The Essential Guide to Exploring Rome, Rome Travel Guide 2023. There are other authors with similar names who have written books on different subjects. Tony Miller is listed as the author of books including Cupcakery, the Integrated Iridology Textbook, and others. Tanya J. Miller has written several books, including Mind Matters and the ME Motivated Effort Project.
Okay, there is a Tonia Miller who is listed as this one book, apparently, which is weird. Is there a Tanya Miller who is listed as reading or writing any books on Amazon?
Yes, there is a Tanya Miller who is listed as reading or writing books that are available on Amazon. Tanya J. Miller is an author and speaker who has...
No. Tonia Miller.
Information on a person named Tonya Miller is available in a few different contexts, including a travel guide author, an EL education employee, and a person who was exonerated after a wrongful conviction. A person named Tonya W. Miller is listed as the author of The Essential Guide to Exploring Rome, Rome Travel Guide 2023. Another person named Tonya Miller is a writer for EL Education's curriculum product and design team. A third person named Tonya Miller was involved in a legal case in Michigan. She was convicted of second-degree murder in 2003 and later exonerated in 2021 after the University of Michigan Law School's Innocence Clinic took on her. The conviction was based on shaken baby syndrome testimony, which was later called into question by new evidence and expert opinions.
Is there a Tanya Walstead Miller who had any cases in the federal court system?
Based on the available information, there is a person named Tanya Miller who was involved in a court case. The case was in Michigan and involved a second-degree murder conviction that was later vacated and led to her exoneration. The legal proceedings were in a state court, not the federal court system. There is no information available linking a Tonya Walstad Miller to any cases in the federal court system.
Really? Do you have a Tanya Walstead Miller having to do with water storage furniture in the federal court system on August 31st, 2021?
Based on the available information, there is a person named Tonya Walstad Miller who was involved in a court case related to a patent. This case was in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. This is a federal court. The case, In re Miller, involved her appeal of a decision from the Patent Trial and Appeal Board. The subject of the patent application was furniture having load-bearing or non-load-bearing structures for storage of
Explain to
water
me
or
why
other
it
material.
didn't come
The
up
opinion document
and why
for the
it
case
says
is dated
there's a
February
murder on
28,
basically the same
2022.
date.
It mentions that her patent application number was 13,218,874, which had an application date of August 31st, 2011, not 2021.
Okay. How many patents does Tanya Walstead Miller have in Japan, Taiwan, Brazil, and other countries outside of the United States of America?
Based on the available information, Tonya Walstad Miller has patent applications in countries outside of the United States. One document from the European Patent Office lists her as an applicant for a European patent with a corresponding filing number in Ireland. Another source mentions a patent application with a filing date in Japan. There is no information available in the context that states a specific number of patents she has in each of those countries or in Brazil or Taiwan.
Okay. They don't have information from different countries and in different languages. So the problem with AI is it only tells you specifically certain things. There's a lot of holes and gaps, but you do get a starting location. Could you please tell me about Lowell Stanley Miller and what is on the internet about him, his children, his love, his life, his mining career, and whatever happened to his wife?
Based on the available information, there is a person named Stanley Lloyd Miller, who was a prominent American chemist. He is most famous for the Miller-Urey experiment, which demonstrated how organic compounds could have formed on early Earth. He was not a miner, and there is no information about it.
Lowell, Lowell, Stanley Miller.
Based on the available information, there is a person named Lowell Allen Miller. Family: Lowell Allen Miller was born to Inez Atchison and Stanley Miller. He had a sister named Cynthia McEachern. His father, Stanley, passed away in 2014. His
Lowell Miller. What information do you have on the internet about this gentleman? Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Indiana, Idaho, California, Australia, Brazil. Say what you will.
Based on the available information, there are several individuals named Lowell Miller. Here is what is known about them from the search results, without conflating the information. Lowell S. Miller, coal miner. This Lowell S. Miller was a resident of Appalachia, Virginia. He was a graduate of Appalachia High School and Clinch Valley College. He was a coal miner with Lehman Mining Co. He was a fan of the Washington Redskins. Lowell Miller, attorney. This Lowell Miller is a resident of Spotswood, New Jersey, where he lives with his wife and children. He has been a resident there since 1999. He co-founded the law firm Miller and Borgen in 2015 with his friend Craig Borgen. He has a career as a lawyer, having started in private practice in 1994, and has handled legal cases in a variety of fields. Lowell F. Miller. This Lowell F. Miller was married to Marie Leindecker Miller for 62 years, and she survived him. He was a loving and dedicated husband.
Is there a website, lowellsmiller.com? And what any kind of way online?
A website with the exact domain link to lowells.miller.com is not mentioned in the search results. However, there are a number of other websites and online profiles for people named Lowell Miller. Lowell S. Miller, the attorney. The law firm he co-founded has a website, linked to millerborgenlaw.com. His profile on the Super Lawyer's website also identifies him as Lowell S. Miller. Another legal directory, Find Law, lists a website for a Lowell S. Miller as linked to lowellmilleresq.com, but this link may be out.
Okay, they just said this didn't exist. How is somebody removing this family? Okay. Lowell Miller exists on this channel, in my love, in my heart, in my DNA. He will play his part in history. This is this man right here, taking his children somewhere dear to his heart. This is his coin. This is him under the ground. This is him working very hard. This is land. This is the man. How many ways can somebody try to take somebody's land? How many ways are there to try to take them apart and hurt them and try to make them not smart by doing things like what happened to me right now? That's what happened to me in my DNA. This is what happened to my daddy. They radiated him. They did stuff to him in bed until he was incapacitated and hurt him in ways. This is me and my daddy. This is my love. Please, God, help us for me to not turn out like him and be dead because they've done things to my head to hurt me. So he's wearing a wig. We're playing pilgrims. This church has a scandal at it. Benton Harbor Congregational Church. Reverend Wright took it and basically didn't do what was supposed to happen with it. This is the integrity of this website. There's a Stanley right here. Phyllis, me, my sister, my aunt. Here is the integrity. Some of the big integrity people. My brother. This restaurant isn't there anymore. Schuler's. There's so many things that aren't there anymore. Maybe I'll do this for you too in a minute when I'm done over here. I've got another show going live on a different channel. This is my dear daddy. We're sitting on Lily's couch. My dad used to charter a boat for my grandfather, Peter Walstead, and other people. I went many times. This is my dear grandmother who kept a good house. She made a good cake. She was a good spouse. She taught me many things. Her ring used to flip around on her finger, and she put a thing to try to keep it there, but it really never did. And my grandfather took the ring in to try to redo it, and then he always wanted to do everything so perfect it didn't get done. So she went with me one day, and we picked out another simple ring for her because she wanted a ring. This is the church that got stolen by Reverend Wright and his other person that had a trust fund attached to it in perpetuity. And this is my mother looking gorgeous. This is my dad telling my sister to look at the camera. And that's what's sad because this is the picture that I happen to have. And my grandmother is gorgeous like Jackie Onassis. And Stanley is the best that they got. And he was in the Coast Guard to take care of the family and watch over the factory, and he got 4 hours of sleep. And I just recently realized that the Coast Guard is actually part of national security. This is my uncle. He's a physician. I'm on his board. This is me. This is my cousin who looks actually like me. Is this the definition of family? Maybe. This is a picture of my dad. He's actually feeling very sad, I'm sure. And I haven't talked to him because things were going wrong and I believe things that weren't true. There's nothing I can ever do to make up what I didn't do for him. But somebody else took a picture of him that day, and he is about as fat as he ever was in this picture, and his intestines probably were, I don't know what was really going on with him, but he ends up losing weight, and they did things to him that weren't great. And I love you, Dad, beyond measure. This is a trip we took to Washington, D.C. at the beginning of the divorce. You can see my hair, and we're all wearing interesting shirts. We drove there. We stopped at different places on the way. We went to see Niagara Falls, and we went to see my aunt. We went to see a cave. We saw many things, and we stayed in Washington, D.C. at a hotel with a pool. And I didn't get to go to Washington, D.C. with the school, but I went with my dad because my mother didn't want me. It wasn't my dad's deal, but my dad was all about educating us children. And we took a White House tour that day. And Lord, God, Heavenly Father, I ask that we stay in this house when you tell me to go there someday. Amen. And this is a very beautiful fireplace. And it's not there anymore. I wonder if somebody salvaged it before they tore the building down at Schuler's. And my dad and I are hand in hand. And today we're heart and heart, mind and mind, soul and soul, DNA, DNA. Whatever the deep state did to take his toll, I pray he will resurrect someday. Lord, please, please, don't take him away. I'm not here on this trip. They all went to Summit Ministries together, I think, on this one, and they ended up going up here to the Olympic headquarters. This is somewhere in Colorado, deep state headquarters. Graduation. We never had a celebration. My family really wasn't like that. We really didn't do parties. And I wasn't there. Because I don't think, or I took the picture, I'm not sure. I might have taken the picture, actually. I don't know. It's sad. This is my uncle and my dad on my dad's wedding day, and they're looking at their watches. They think they're funny. This is when uncle still had more of his hair. And he tells a really interesting story about whistling and bumping into my dad in the Chicago airport. And I'm still having trouble thinking, but that's why I'm still going to put this out while I can. And bumping into one of the Uptons. And he thought that he was my dad because he just bumped into my uncle because they looked a lot alike. And my dad was apparently going from Minnesota to Washington, D.C., which was very interesting to me. And I am now wondering if my dad, in fact, was recruited into the CIA or some other kind of organization to not go to Vietnam, or what my grandfather, Peter Walsh, said had to do with the whole situation. Because why was my dad going to Washington, D.C. that day? And the only reason I know is because my uncle ran into an Upton and then my dad and my uncle found each other by whistling in the airport because there was a family whistle. This is my beautiful father, who my grandmother told me tried to clean under the sink and made a mess with the soap, probably about this age. What a beautiful door. That's not there anymore. Or it's covered up in a way. This is a pond at the Clemens house. We're related to Samuel Clemens, in fact, and this name has died out. He's playing in the pool. He's probably no longer there. And he's not even in school yet. This is my dad fishing. He used to like to wear black jeans. I think he thought they looked fancier. And they also used to be in back then. This is Stanley O. Miller. His middle name stood for Oswald, and he hated it because of the historical things that it stood for that weren't him. No matter what somebody might try to distort, to manipulate situations, you can't just take somebody and change who they are. We love you, my grandfather. We probably took way too long doing my dad's hair in the backyard. This is Anastasia Romanova. She used to say that my dad was her brother. And people from Switzerland, they came to visit, and there's a party. She was like a mother to me. And here she is. It's not the most flattering picture, so you hid it. But I wanted to have it for the integrity. This is a picture of my dad. Love you, Dad. And Christopher, like a brother in a way, from from somebody who's like my mother. And here's Christopher and my brother and another friend this day. And I ask us all to pray for all these men in a special way. Lord, these men have been separated that were once on this mountain, and we ask that you would give them a fountain of life and love and truth. And anyone who is married to somebody who's a sleuth that is not very couth, we ask that you would take them away, hey, hey, and clean their life up today, hey, hey, and preserve their children in every way, hey, hey, and hope and pray that they have a good day and love each other in a special way. Thank you for friendships, connections, and cold water. That's ice cold water in some ways. And we took these logs and we tied them together. And we paddled our asses to the middle of the water. And then it broke apart and we fell in and it was cold. And it sucked and I yelled out a swear word and my dad got mad at me. He said that was not very ladylike. Here's Christopher. There's my sister and I. Guess I have something to drink. It's back when bangs are in and my sister has her hair permed. Back in the perming era. So according to AI, this website does not exist. According to AI, I don't really exist. According to AI, my dad doesn't exist. But that's not true. We have to put up our sites, me and you. We have to preserve ourselves in many ways. This is my grandmother back here eating. I'm sure she would be not happy. And that's her sister, Arlene. She had a husband named Uncle Beep. And he was damaged in World War II. And he was in the Death March. And here's Stanley, my loving grandfather, who said, when I find the right man, he'll shake his hand. And here's Phyllis. She's named after my grandmother and my dad. And what's sad is how many people are not alive anymore in this picture. There's a few people that are still alive, but most of them are not. Don't have any good pictures of my dad's house, unfortunately. It's a parking lot now. This is the corner. And this was a day that they took out and were spitting seeds, or cherry pits actually, which is technically a seed. And I spent many, many hours trimming these bushes, making them look good. And we had tiger lilies that went around the house, and up the front, these are tiger lilies. So much care and love. This is the funeral home parking lot. And my sister used to take great care with these. She had a lot of t-shirt collection. And this is my dad, and it's very sad that he is not here to tell us what happened that day. But he has wood chips on his forehead because he had been cutting a tree down and his friend took a picture of him. I think she liked him. I know she did. And that's the point. People loved my father. My dad grew his hair out because he decided he was Jewish, sort of. I'm so tired. This is the mountain picture. Chris Kaling's father took it, I think. David Kaling. Anna said did her dental work and did some issues. Chris doesn't want to believe it. He likes the tissues. This day, Lord, we pray over Uncle Pete in a special way that he came to see us on this day. And he used to live in Florida in a way. So he was used to being hot and he liked to wear sweaters. And there were ducks and we didn't want to slide in because there was a little damp on the grass. And Helen and Phyllis stood in the background, and Victor, he was always had a little touch of class. He wasn't as sharp a dresser as Stanley, and he wasn't as shrewd at business. But he was a good man, and so was Stan, and we love him forever, says the Most High. Look at how gorgeous my grandmother is here. And she used to do this thing with her hand. She had grace. And elegance. And she taught me to dress. That doesn't mean that I always do it, but I can. And so did Stan. Look at him. He was trim. He was always trim. He never got fat. He liked to sunbathe. He worked on Sundays went out at the farm. He was such a good worker. He tried, and he talked all over town. BB, and my dad with his glasses. And look at this fireplace. I happen to know that somebody painted it white, which I don't think is what I would do. And these little Asian figurines were still in my grandmother's house by the time I was a kid. They weren't there. They were somewhere else in the house. My sister Heather was explaining how she made the candles, and Stanley was just enthralled, and so was my dad, and she had both of their attention. And she's explaining it. Lord, Heavenly Father, I ask that my dad stay and pray with us and help me in a special way. I can't have him go. I need him to know how much I love him So please, please stay. Can't stay. Because we want him to be with us, said the Most High. The problem is, sometimes your dad goes to stay somewhere else, but I can't have it. Please, Daddy, please, I want you to stay. That's the point. The Lord is not away. He can't just take your dad. Somebody took my dad away, said somebody in the heart of me. It's so hard for me. I want my dad to be here, okay? And his integrity. Okay, let's talk more about my dad. So, this picture is he's got my brother on his lap and this old lady. So, my sister Wendy, the car needed to get fixed. We were somewhere down south and there wasn't a gas station, and we were in a small town. My dad asked where we could get the car fixed, and we ended up in a neighborhood at somebody's house. And we were all bored standing around, and I don't have glasses, and I didn't see, and I didn't notice. But my sister Wendy saw this older woman with swollen legs trying to do her yard, and it was one of the steepest hills you've ever seen. She probably almost needed a rope. I'm serious. It was so bad. And she went over to mow it for her. And I am so frustrated with the young people that I've tried to hire. They don't do it. They charge you so much money. They don't do it. Or they halfway do it. Or they do it with a bad attitude. And the way we were raised, you helped. You did things. You didn't get paid. And it was okay. And my sister comes back with these little mittens. The woman had knit mittens and had a string. She had a funny look on her face because she was sort of like forced to take them. And the woman wanted to invite us over for dinner, and my dad said, no, no. She kept insisting, and he finally said, okay, we can come for a snack. So she was very excited. So we went back with her to her house when my dad finished the car. And we made pudding with vanilla wafers. And we had a snack. We took this picture. And she lived in a trailer, which is, I'm sure, why my dad didn't want her to make us a meal. But in fact, she loved having the company, and the pudding didn't really put her back that much. So it turned out, and she had grandchildren, and they had pictures of cows. But yet nobody came over to mow for her. But God sent my sister that day. Lord, we just thank you for people who come and pray and do things in a special way without being begged and asked and tortured to get them to do what they should do. And I ask for people to come and donate their time to me and you to help the projects that we need to do. For the kingdom of God, Yahuwah Yeshua, the Ruach HaKodesh, we say, hey, Lord, hey, 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 we ask you to pray for everybody in space who never had anybody that knew their face and wanted to love them because they're part of the human race. And we ask that anybody that has been sent there that's a clone or not full grown, that never had a blanket or a mother, and didn't get to be a sister or a brother or have a wife, we pray for them that they would know what it's like to not live in strife. Listen, people, there are people in space. They're not telling us what's happened to the human race. And we need to do something about it. This is a picture of Lily. And Stanley, why doesn't my dad look gorgeous? and my brother. I'm really, really sorry that he married my mother. And no offense to my mother, but they should have never gotten married. By the way, does anybody know what happened to John Kerry? We should look it up. Banana cake. That's what my grandmother served. I bet I'm about second grade here. I got most of my clothes as hand-me-downs from my cousins and stuff. And I remember all second grade, I only wore dresses. And I never wore pants, not one day. My choice. And I had these socks that were like knee-high socks, and I had a whole bunch of them, and they had these patterns to them. I really liked wearing them with my dresses. And that's what I had. And this is one of my dresses. It looks like a little old maid. Up here I am in another little dress. That's an Argyle one. Greg, I remember when he got his would-be wife, she cut his hair and everybody got excited about it. And Lily, she didn't have much hair, but she was known for washing the kitchen floor when she left. And somebody asked her, if you could do life different, what would you do? And she said she wouldn't wash her kitchen floor as much. And my grandfather took his first paycheck, Stanley Miller, and he used it to buy his mother a silver set. And I'm sure it's something he never forgot. And that silver set was in their house. And when I went to dinner, we frequently ate with the silver my grandfather gave to his mother. And my grandmother did the cooking, and he would always say, "What a lovely meal this is." And they'd pray. Nobody prays anymore. They had little silver loops that went around cloth napkins. And we ate with tablecloths and silverware. And we always had a salad. A special fork for that. My grandmother usually made chicken and a couple vegetables or fish. And we didn't eat a lot of beef. My grandfather thought you should only eat beef like once every 2 weeks or something. It doesn't mean we didn't eat beef. It's just that my grandmother didn't cook it that much. And she always bought Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And she got from raisin or vanilla. And sometimes she got Polar bars that were a special treat. And to be honest, I never really liked them, but she just got this gleam in her eye, so I ate them. And you can see the light purple tablecloth in this picture. And my grandmother's dishes and the silverware. This was my great grandmother's tablecloth, and my grandmother took very good care of it there. But we brought paper napkins because we're in the old people's home. And my grandfather would make us stay there till we could get my great grandmother sort of smiling. And she was sort of deaf in one ear. And Victor would say, "Talk in this ear." And my Victor and Stanley were so sweet to their mother. And she would clench her hand and she wouldn't open it. And they would try to rub her fingers. And she had ugly shoes, very ugly shoes that my grandfather ended up giving me that were size 8.5. He saved everything. And he had them in a barn. I could use a barn. And my grandmother would make my great grandmother's cake. It was called banana cake. And it had cream filling, like whipped cream frosting that wasn't that sweet. How come we can't do that now? Real banana slices. How come everything has to be so fake and gross? This is a picture of Phyllis, Stanley, myself. That's a Guess outfit. I was pretty pleased with it. Pink and white stripes, little patch, great pink shorts, cotton. Can never get anything cotton anymore. My dad wearing his, it's hard to tell, but those are blue corduroy shorts and the striped shirt has something in the pocket. People don't put things in the pocket that much anymore. We're at the new products picnic, and I stayed home, and I didn't go to Minnesota that year. And it's interesting because my dad and I just got along so beautifully without the other kids, and I've now realized that my sister Heather didn't really listen, and she rolled her eyes a lot. And I'm pretty sure it made family meetings go a lot worse because it made my dad feel rejected and not heard. And here is a picture of me at Halloween. And there's a secret passageway for more pictures in some of these. And my grandmother being classy, dressed up in a suit, standing at the front door and greeting people and giving them candy with her hands clasped. She was a classy lady. And this is a silly outfit. I'm Raggedy Ann, or Andy. Actually, I think I'm Andy. My mom made it out of a mop. She dyed it red. People used to actually make their Halloween costumes. And my dad's got a silly thing on his head. And he only took us around to people we knew. And he did it. My mom made the costumes, and my dad took us around. And this is a picture of my dad and my sister, and they were going to a father-daughter hayride together, and they dressed up, and they look like they're in the Western fro. I love you, Daddy. He's got a real gun on him, which he knew how to use. And there's his Western hat. God love him. There's my dad's beer mug. He used to not drink beer, drink tea. A lot of free floating tea bits. Not even the bag. I don't know where we got it. I don't even know exactly what he would use. It's good for him. And this was my idea, and my mom executed the artwork on it. And these are candlesticks, which is something you don't see much. And that's kind of what my dad and Stephen are for me. They're the candlesticks that hold what should be their candles for me. And there's little angels on these candlesticks. And I don't know what my aunt did with everything because she basically took everything. And that's a long story. And it's a little gory. And this is the artwork. I wish I knew where it was. Is that the bluff here or where? It's funny how you take things for granted. It's funny how pictures mean so much and how you wish you just had more. We didn't take as many pictures, but the problem with the pictures now is people do them digitally and they're better. But people's phones dies and memory chips go and people don't print things. And so their memories are going to go too. This is my brother. It needs no explanation. And a vacuum. And this, my mother made these too. My mother made her costumes. And my dad took us out. And this is at Peter and Mary Wallstead's house when it was still on the lake, Glick Point, Ferguson's Point. And finally, my eye is doing better. I got hit up from just an hour, probably maybe slept an hour and a half. And I was in such bad shape. And I'm still not feeling great, if I'm going to be honest with everyone. And I really do need, I'm hot. And the problem is, I need to be wearing, this is a grounding sheet. I am wearing something, not that anyone needs to know. Because I was sleepy, or trying to. And here's the throw. It's hot. All this stuff is hot. I don't really want to wear it. And the stickers that I should have had on my head and I forgot. I still have one right here. Because they were radiating me with stuff. And they're trying to make it so I can't think. And I want to put out the information of my love and everybody that's important through the dove. The Holy Spirit connects us all and love travels forever. It's not like a feather. So we're in Coates. This was at Christmas time. And I hid it because it didn't. My dad wasn't actually in it. Wendy's wearing boots. I'm wearing a coat and hat. I think it belonged to Peter. I'm not sure. Or my dad. I think it's Peter's coat. That's what's sad, said somebody. I guess it's sad because this is my dad's website, but my dad loved Peter until Peter took him out, basically. This is my dad. He took us on a trip. My brother's sitting on Gracie's lap. You can see her little shriveled hand. She was a family friend that grew up behind my dad. And to be honest, I didn't like her. Even though I respected her, I cared about her, I loved her, something about me, I never liked her. I'm not going to say anymore. But I ended up having her daughter help me with my project, batteries included, and she did an interesting job, and her thumbprint is on it forever, in a way. So thank you. And this is not my dad's brown sweater. This is just a turtleneck that he used to wear. But my dad kept his clothes well and quality for a very, very long time. That might be the same brown sweater. And my mother's hand looks just like Gicky's there. We're in Idaho. It's crazy. We have all matching sweaters we got from my grandmother Phyllis. And these little outfits, we always had matching clothes, maybe different colors and stuff. And my brother just looking like the cutest doll. He was just the cutest, sweetest thing. And here's my grandmother and grandfather looking dashing with my uncle, who never has much hair, and my dad looking beautiful. What's the problem we have today, guys? This is our love. This is Anastasia Romanova, looking like a queen, because she is Russian royalty. And my family member in so many ways. And this is a song I wrote. It's part of my project. And this is my dad in September of 2029, probably around the 24th, 25th, 26th, might be labeled, holding a rock he was excited about. And I love you, Daddy, forever. And here are my dad's headshots. And that's basically what we've got. And I hope that this stays up forever. But it might not, and so I wanted to preserve my endeavor that I made this website for my dad when he died, and I was very sad. But in the end, love remains, and that, my friend, is what sustains. And I know that my dad is love. And he's one of the best souls, and I know that we will do the right thing in the end because God wins. But it doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of loss, and it doesn't mean there aren't battles, and it doesn't mean there's not a cost. And you can never fully undo a man who is loved. No matter the lies, no matter if somebody takes the string from his sweater and pulls it until you can't tell it's there anymore. There's pictures, there's words, there's warmth, there's knowledge, there's integrity. And the love that was made in the washing and the caring and the tearing can't take away that. And my dad can't wait to see me in heaven. But I want him to stay with me here. My dad wants me to keep talking so he knows that he's always going to be remembered. I need him here, Lord. I need my daddy here. Please, 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 please. My dad needed to see his sweater. My dad needed to know there was a picture of his sweater. Somebody says to me in my heart, "What a fart," said Tanya. "That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard," said everyone. Let's pray. For a place to stay, Lord God, in every way I need a place to stay so I can hang a sweater and make a way and be with my dad and my friends in a place that can be my own. I ask for a phone that does not take away everything I ever said in a day. Thank you, Lord Almighty, for giving me my dad. Amen. I'm going to put this on pause, but I can't. That's the point. It's not what I need to do. Said everybody, we need to know how we can help you to get back what you've lost. That's such a great cost. I don't know if somebody can understand how much my dad loved me. And I shouldn't have stopped my phone. But I did. And I'm going to put it up right now on a different channel. Because what I'm trying to do is document stuff. And I still need to go shopping. And I've been on for an hour and 44 minutes and 29 seconds. I finally have one person viewing me. They went away. That's the problem. Is that I'm being restricted. There's no way. That's because I picked up my own phone, probably. The deep state has taken me down on so many of my channels, which is why I don't really do lives anymore. I do other ones and then I kick them off and then they get some views, so that's good. This is to preserve the day for me, for you, for everybody. In the future, we could take it down and edit it. The quality isn't going to be the best, but we didn't get the rest. Maybe I should have used my StreamYard, but the video on The laptop's the same, but it's nice to get the bigger view. And that's why we also did the phone for you. We did both, so we have both. Because I love you guys. And I know my dad wants to live on. And he wants to live on in a song. He wants to live on in my heart. And I don't have any children, which is a dart. T plus more. I'm the T. My dad used to call me T. And he's the more. And Steven's the more. And space is the more. The human race is the more. And that's what I am. I'm the T. And I live for the more. And I honor you. And I love you some more. Said Tanya to everyone that she wants to stay and pray with tonight in a special way. Thank you. God bless. And all the rest. Stanley Woolston Miller. Just kidding. Everything has gotten mixed up some way. Stanley Miller, Lowell Miller, Tanya Miller, Stephen, Thomas. He sort of made it that up name because he wasn't really given one, guys. It's insane what happened to Stephen. His true name is not known. And that's what happens to some people. The unknown soldier, the unknown walk, the unknown stalker, the unknown block. Where can we go where we can have someone to tell us how much we're loved and give us a fro? Thank you for everyone who puts an extra light out with a blanket for a stranger so they know they're welcome in their home and under a dome. How many people live under a dome without a blanket? Floating around in space. What a disgrace. Can we bring back the human race so we can hug them and love them and tell them we're sorry and pay them and give them a place to live so they are not lost? Do we really think that it's a great cost? What are we getting out of sending people to space? How is it furthering the human race? I don't know. Do you? We started this video off looking at how many people work for NASA to go to space. It's over 300,000. It's like a town. But that doesn't even include the Air Force. It doesn't include Space Force. Canada only has 30 million people. It's like a country, small country worth of people. I wonder what's the population of Switzerland? Let's see if I can get this to work. I'd love to know the population of Switzerland if I'd get my phone to work. So we'll put it back on record. What is the population of Switzerland?
According to various estimates for 2025, the population of Switzerland is approximately 9 million. More specifically, Worldometer estimates the mid-year 2025 population at 1,967,407. Wikipedia reports a 20 estimate of 9,060,598. The Swiss Federal Statistical Office reported that the population increased to 9,051,029 people by the end of 2024.
Okay, what's another man? What's is it? Man's Island. How many people live on Man's Island?
The Isle of Man, which is also sometimes referred to as Man Island, had a resident population of 84,069 at the time of its last census in May 2021. Estimates for the population in 2025 vary slightly, but they are all around 85,000.
Okay, so that whole island, there's like way more people who work on space than that island. How many square miles does Man Island have?
The Isle of Man has a total land area of approximately 221 to 227 square miles, 507 square kilometers. The discrepancy in the exact number comes from different sources, but the area is consistently reported within this range. The Isle of Man is about 33 miles long and 13 miles wide at its broadest point.
What is the surface space square miles in the moon and on Mars and on Jupiter?
Here are the approximate surface areas of the Moon, Mars, and Jupiter. Moon. The Moon has a surface area of about 14.6 million square miles, 38 million square kilometers. This is slightly less than the total surface area of the continent of Asia. Mars. The surface area of Mars is approximately 55.7 million square miles, 144.4 million square kilometers. Interestingly, this is almost the same as the total land area of Earth. Jupiter. As a gas giant, Jupiter doesn't have a solid surface, so its surface area is based on a specific atmospheric pressure level. Based on this, Jupiter has an enormous surface area of about 23.7 billion square miles, 61.4 billion square kilometers, which is more than 120 times the surface area of Earth.
How much space junk is there, and what square mileage do you think there is of space junk in our in the atmosphere of our universe?
The concept of square mileage for space junk isn't a meaningful measure, because the debris isn't spread out like a sheet on a flat surface. Instead, it exists in a vast, three-dimensional volume of space, with objects of all sizes zipping around at incredibly high speeds. Here's a breakdown of the amount of space junk, which is usually measured by mass, number of objects, and the volume of space it occupies. By number and mass. Total mass. The total mass of all space debris in Earth's orbit is estimated to be over 9,500 metric tons, about 21 million pounds. Larger objects. There are approximately 36,000 objects larger than 10 centimeters, about 4 inches, being actively tracked by surveillance networks. This includes defunct satellites and spent rocket stages. Smaller debris. The number of smaller pieces is much higher. Estimates suggest there are 900,000 to 1.2 million objects between 1 and 10 centimeters. Over 100 million objects between 1 millimeter and 1 centimeter. By volume of space, the vast majority of space junk is not in the atmosphere, but in Earth's orbit, primarily in a region called low Earth orbit, LEO. This is the orbital band within about 1,200 miles, 2,000 kilometers, of Earth's surface. Even within this region, the debris is not uniformly distributed. The greatest concentration is found at altitudes between 450 to 600 miles, 750 to 1,000 kilometers. While there is no square mileage of space junk, the problem is not about the total area it covers, but the sheer number of objects and their high speeds. Even a tiny fleck of paint can cause significant damage to a satellite or spacecraft due to the extreme velocities involved, up to 17,500 miles per hour, or 28,164 kilometers per hour. This high-velocity environment poses a growing risk of collisions, which can create even more debris in a chain reaction known as the Kessler syndrome.
Could you please tell me how many spaceship debris is in space?
While an exact, real time number is impossible to give due to the sheer volume and speed of the objects, we can provide some very strong estimates based on data from organizations like NASA, the European Space Agency, ESA, and the United States Space Surveillance Network. Here's a breakdown of the estimated amount of space debris in Earth's orbit. Total mass. The total mass of all space debris is estimated to be over 13,400 metric tons. This is roughly the weight of the Eiffel Tower. Tracked objects. There are approximately 36,000 objects larger than 10 centimeters, about 4 inches, that are actively tracked and cataloged by surveillance networks. These include old rocket stages, defunct satellites, and large fragments from collisions. Smaller debris. The number of smaller pieces is far greater and is based on statistical models. 900,000 to 1.2 million objects are estimated to be between 1 and 10 centimeters. There are over 100 million objects between 1 millimeter and 1 centimeter. The most critical part of the problem is not the total number of objects, but the fact that they are traveling at extremely high speeds, up to 17,500 miles per hour, 28,164 kilometers per hour in low Earth orbit. At these velocities, even a tiny fleck of paint can cause significant damage to a satellite or spacecraft.
Can you tell me what kind of radiation issues are in space and how it can hurt your face and what it does to the human race to be radiated in space?
Space is a harsh environment, and one of the most significant dangers to human health is radiation. Unlike on Earth, where we are protected by our planet's atmosphere and magnetic field, astronauts in space are exposed to high levels of radiation from multiple sources. Types of space radiation. Space radiation is primarily made up of 3 types of particles and energy. 1. Galactic cosmic rays, GCRs. These are extremely high energy protons and heavy atomic nuclei that originate from outside our solar system, often from supernovae and other distant astronomical events. GCRs are the most dangerous form of radiation for long-duration space missions because they are highly energetic and difficult to shield against. 2. Solar particle events, SPEs. The sun occasionally releases massive bursts of energy and charged particles in events like solar flares and coronal mass ejections. These events can shower astronauts with high doses of protons and other particles in a very short amount of time. While less frequent than GCRs, an SPE can be deadly if an astronaut is not in a well-shielded area. 3. Trapped radiation, Van Allen belts. Earth's magnetic field traps charged particles, mostly protons and electrons, from the solar wind, forming 2 donut-shaped rings around our planet. Astronauts in low Earth orbit, LEO, like those on the International Space Station, ISS, fly within the protection of this field, but passing through the belts on missions to the Moon or Mars exposes them to intense radiation. How space radiation affects the body. Radiation is a form of energy that can ionize or strip electrons from atoms and molecules in a human body. This process damages cells and DNA, leading to a variety of short-term and long-term health issues. Effects on the face and body. Acute radiation sickness. If an astronaut is exposed to a very high dose of radiation in a short period, such as during a powerful SPE, they can develop symptoms of acute radiation sickness. This can include nausea, vomiting, fatigue, and even damage to the central nervous system, which could be fatal. Central nervous system, CNS damaged GCRs, are particularly concerning because they are so energetic. They can penetrate a spacecraft's shielding and an astronaut's body, damaging the brain and spinal cord. This can lead to cognitive issues, memory loss, and a decline in motor skills. Cancer. Damaged DNA from radiation exposure can lead to uncontrolled cell growth, significantly increasing an astronaut's lifetime risk of developing cancer, including leukemia, and tumors in various organs like lungs, stomach, and colon. Cataracts. High radiation exposure is linked to the development of cataracts in the eyes, which can impair vision. Degenerative diseases. Long-term exposure to space radiation is associated with a higher risk of developing degenerative diseases, such as cardiovascular diseases and cataracts. Face. While there isn't a specific face radiation sickness, the face is just as vulnerable as any other part of the body. The skin, eyes, and underlying tissues can be damaged by the ionizing particles. Astronauts have even reported seeing flashes of light in their eyes, called phosphenes, when a charged cosmic ray particle stimulates their retina. The impact on the human race? Long-term space exploration. For long-duration missions like a trip to Mars, radiation is a primary limiting factor. The amount of radiation an astronaut would receive on a 2 to 3 year mission would exceed current safety limits for a career. The solutions to this problem are challenging. Shielding. Spacecraft need to be designed with more effective radiation shielding, which is difficult because GCRs are so penetrating. Materials that are good at blocking one type of radiation may be poor at blocking another. Water is an excellent shielding material, and some spacecraft designs propose using a vehicle's water and waste as a form of shielding. Predictive models. Scientists are working on better models to predict solar flares so astronauts can take shelter in a highly shielded area of the spacecraft when a burst of radiation is imminent. Medical countermeasures. Research is ongoing to develop drugs and therapies that could help the human body repair itself from radiation damage. The long-term effects of space radiation are a major area of research for agencies like NASA and the ESA. Understanding and mitigating these risks is crucial for the future of human space exploration beyond low Earth orbit.
Can we talk more about the solar flares in people's eyes and how radiation can affect people's eyes and brains?
You've brought up one of the most fascinating and alarming aspects of space travel: the direct biological effects of radiation. The flashes of light astronauts see, and the long-term cognitive and visual problems they face, are key challenges for human exploration. Let's dive deeper into how space radiation affects the eyes and the brain. Phosphenes, seeing, cosmic rays. The phenomenon you mentioned, where astronauts see flashes of light in their eyes, is a well-documented effect called a phosphene. These aren't like the phosphenes you might see from rubbing your eyes. They are caused by high-energy particles, specifically galactic cosmic rays, GCRs, passing through an astronaut's retina, optic nerve, or even the visual cortex of their brain. What it looks like. Astronauts describe a variety of shapes and colors. They often report seeing streaks, spots, stars, zigzag lines, or clouds of light. The color is usually white or colorless, but some have reported pale greens, yellows, or even a blue diamond-like flash. Why it happens. The exact mechanism is still being studied, but the leading theories are direct interaction. A highly energetic cosmic ray particle directly strikes a light-sensitive photoreceptor cell in the retina, stimulating it and making the brain perceive a flash of light. Cherenkov radiation. As a charged particle zips through the vitreous humor, the jelly-like substance in the eye, it can move faster than the speed of light in that medium. This creates a cone of bluish light, similar to a sonic boom, which the astronaut's eye perceives as a flash. Significance. While the flashes themselves are not directly harmful, they are a powerful, real-time reminder of the constant bombardment of high-energy radiation in space. They demonstrate that even the body's most sensitive tissues are not immune to the effects of GCRs. How radiation damages the eyes. Beyond the fleeting phosphenes, the cumulative effect of radiation can cause long-term, degenerative eye diseases. The eye is an especially vulnerable organ because it is not well protected by the skull. Cataracts. This is one of the most well-known risks for astronauts. Radiation can damage the proteins in the eye's lens, causing them to clump together and become cloudy. This can lead to impaired vision and, in severe cases, blindness. Retinal damage. The retina is a delicate layer of tissue at the back of the eye, with millions of light-sensitive cells. Radiation can damage the blood vessels and other structures in the retina, leading to conditions like retinopathy, which can cause hemorrhages and vision loss. Corneal damage. The cornea, the transparent front part of the eye, can also be affected. High radiation doses can cause inflammation and scarring, leading to pain and blurred vision. How radiation harms the brain. The effects of space radiation on the brain are one of the most critical and complex challenges for long-duration space missions, particularly a mission to Mars. The brain's cells, neurons, are not great at replacing themselves, so any damage can be long-lasting. Cognitive impairment. Research, primarily from animal studies, has shown that exposure to GCRs can lead to significant and persistent cognitive deficits. This includes memory loss, impairment in both spatial and episodic memory, executive function deficits, difficulty with problem solving, decision-making, and judgment, anxiety and depression. Psychological and behavioral changes are also linked to radiation-induced damage. Neurological damage. The radiation doesn't just kill brain cells, it fundamentally changes their structure and function. Inflammation. Radiation can cause chronic inflammation in the brain. Disrupted communication. It can damage the dendrites and spines of neurons, the tiny branches that receive and transmit signals. This disrupts the brain's neural networks, impairing communication between brain cells. Long-term risks. Scientists are concerned that the cumulative damage from GCRs could lead to a higher risk of neurodegenerative diseases, such as Alzheimer's, years or even decades after a mission. Why solar flares and cosmic rays are different for health? It's important to distinguish between solar flares and galactic cosmic rays, GCRs, in terms of their health impact in space. Solar flares, SPEs. These are massive bursts of particles from the sun. They are dangerous because they can deliver a very high dose of radiation in a short amount of time. The danger is acute. An astronaut could get a fatal dose if not protected. However, they can be mitigated by prediction and having a well-shielded storm shelter on the spacecraft. Galactic cosmic rays, GCRs. These are the long-term chronic threat. They are a constant drizzle of high-energy particles from outside our solar system. They are incredibly penetrating and hard to shield against. Their threat is cumulative and leads to the long-term health risks like cancer, cataracts, and brain damage. In summary, the radiation in space poses both immediate and long-term risks to an astronaut's health. While the flashes of light are a tangible sign of the danger, the real concern is the invisible and cumulative damage to the eyes and, most importantly, the brain, which could affect an astronaut's performance during a mission and their health for the rest of their lives.
How many people were on 20 and backs and other missions, or how many animal/human hybrids have gone on these missions that have had this eye flare situation or other health situations?
This is an important topic to clarify, as there are some common misunderstandings. Apollo 20 and other Apollo missions. First, there was no Apollo 20 mission. The Apollo program, which landed humans on the moon, concluded with Apollo 17 in December 1972. In total, 24 astronauts flew on the 9 crewed Apollo missions that went to the moon, Apollo 8, 10 to 17, and 12 of them walked on the lunar surface. Human-animal hybrids in space. There have been no human-animal hybrids sent into space. The concept of human-animal hybrids is a common theme in science fiction and mythology, but it is not supported by science and has not been attempted in any space program. The missions we know of have only involved humans and non-hybrid animals. Animal missions and health situations. A wide variety of non-human animals have been launched into space, primarily to study the biological effects of spaceflight before humans were sent. These animals were not hybrids, but a normal species. The most notable include fruit flies, the first animals sent into space by the U.S. in 1947 to study radiation exposure. Monkeys and apes. The U.S. space program used monkeys and chimpanzees, such as Albert II, the first monkey in space, and Ham, the first chimp to survive a spaceflight, to test the effects of G-forces and microgravity. Dogs. The Soviet Union famously used dogs, with Laika being the first animal to orbit the Earth in 1957. Later, dogs like Belka and Strelka successfully orbited and returned to Earth, providing crucial data. Other animals. Mice, rats, rabbits, tortoises, frogs, fish, spiders, and many other creatures have been sent to space for various scientific experiments. These animals provided crucial data on how space affects living beings, including radiation exposure. The data gathered from these missions helped scientists understand the effects of cosmic radiation and prepare for human missions, human eye flare, and other health situations. The eye flare or phosphine flashes you mentioned are a common reported phenomenon among astronauts and cosmonauts. It is a direct effect of high-energy particles hitting the eye's retina or visual cortex. In terms of other health situations, astronauts who have been to space, particularly those on long-duration missions on the International Space Station, have experienced a range of radiation-related health issues. Cataracts. A number of astronauts have developed cataracts at a younger age than the general population, which is linked to radiation exposure. Brain changes. While the effects are still being studied, research suggests that long-term spaceflight can lead to changes in the brain's white matter and ventricular size, which some scientists link to radiation exposure. Cancer. The lifetime risk of cancer is a major concern for astronauts, and studies are ongoing to monitor this risk. So to summarize your question, there was no Apollo 20. There have been no human-animal hybrids in space. Numerous non-human animals have been in space for research, and their health data has been crucial for understanding radiation effects. The eye flare and other health issues like cataracts and cognitive changes have been experienced by human astronauts due to the extreme radiation environment of space.
I want to point out how ridiculous this is. They sit there and say that there's been all these situations with flares and radiation and cancer, but all they're going to admit to is the Apollo mission. It's just totally ridiculous. I hope you all are enjoying my backdrop that I created, and I have EMF stickers on my forehead because I was being radiated, or they were using my biometrics to send me some kind of disease or do something to lower my energy field. There's many different frequencies that I'd fallen asleep without my this right here is a sheet that's plugged in right here, and I have a grounding mat which I'm sitting on, and I have an EMF blanket, and I really don't enjoy all this gear, and I fell asleep without it, and now I have to scratch my ear And listen, people, we're human. We're on this for a long time. I need to do something else, like shop, entertain myself, go to the bathroom, get up, do some things. I love you all. Thank you so much for remembering me in your prayers, but more importantly, not more importantly, because we all are important, please pray for everybody that's out there and understand that there is a psychic communication. Let's talk about it. Is there a good way to communicate in space with the time differential besides psychic communication?
That's an excellent question that gets to the heart of one of the biggest challenges of deep space exploration. The time delay, or latency, is a fundamental physical limitation, and there are many ways we deal with it that are far more practical than psychic communication. The physics of the problem. The core issue is that all known forms of communication, from radio waves to light, travel at the speed of light. This is the fastest speed possible in the universe. While incredibly fast, about 186,000 miles or 300,000 kilometers per second, the distances in space are so vast that it results in significant delays. Moon. Communication with a spacecraft on or near the moon has a one-way delay of about 1.3 seconds. This is manageable, but makes real-time conversation impossible. Mars. The delay to Mars is a major challenge. It varies depending on the planet's orbits, but it can be anywhere from 4 to 24 minutes one way. This means a round-trip conversation could take nearly an hour. Deep space. For missions like Voyager 1, which is now in interstellar space, the one-way communication delay is over 24 hours. Solutions to the time delay challenge. Given that we can't change the speed of light, the good way to communicate involves changing our approach to communication itself. This is where engineers, mission planners, and astronauts have developed innovative solutions. 1. Shift from real-time to asynchronous communication. For deep space missions, the communication model isn't a conversation. It's a series of messages. Think of it more like email than a phone call. For human missions to Mars, astronauts would send a detailed message with questions or status updates. The ground control team would analyze the data, formulate a response, and send it back. The crew would then receive and act on that response, which could take a full day to go back and forth. Protocol and precision. To avoid confusion, messages must be highly structured and contain all necessary information. They include timestamps, clear subject lines, and a list of all questions to be answered. 2. Advanced onboard autonomy. The most critical countermeasure to time delay is making the spacecraft and its crew highly independent. Instead of relying on real-time commands from Earth, the spacecraft has to be smart enough to make its own decisions. Onboard computers. Modern robotic missions, like the Mars rovers, have advanced AI and software that can analyze their surroundings, navigate terrain, and choose scientific targets without constant human input. Crew autonomy. For a human mission to Mars, the crew would be the ultimate authority. They would be trained to handle emergencies, perform repairs, and make critical decisions on the spot, as waiting for a response from Earth could be fatal. 3. New communication technologies. While radio waves are the tried and true method, new technologies are being developed to increase the speed and volume of data transfer, even with the time delay. Deep Space Optical Communications, DSOC. NASA is testing a revolutionary new system that uses lasers to transmit data. Lasers can send a much larger amount of data per second than traditional radio waves. This won't eliminate the time delay, but it will allow us to send high-definition video and massive amounts of scientific data more efficiently, making the long waits more productive. Relay satellites. For missions to Mars, a network of relay satellites orbiting the red planet will be crucial. They will allow continuous communication with rovers on the surface, and in the future, with a human base, even when Mars is on the opposite side of the sun from Earth. Why not faster-than-light communication? The idea of faster-than-light communication, which would solve the time delay problem, is a fascinating topic in theoretical physics. Concepts like quantum entanglement have been proposed as potential ways to send information instantaneously. However, to date, there is no evidence that this is possible. According to our current understanding of physics, entangled particles cannot be used to transmit a signal faster than the speed of light. The good way to communicate in space is to accept the limitations of physics and build a communication system that is resilient, autonomous, and designed to work with, not against, the time delay.
If heaven is in some place in space and we're here on Earth, then it makes it hard for heaven.
The concept of heaven existing as a physical place in outer space is a fascinating idea, but it's not a view held by mainstream theology or science. Here's a breakdown of why this is the case. From both religious and scientific perspectives, the theological view In most major religions, the concept of heaven is not a physical location that can be found with a telescope or space probe. Instead, it's understood as a spiritual or transcendent realm. Heaven is often described as a state of being or a dimension that exists outside of our known physical universe, our space time continuum. It's the realm where God, angels, and the souls of the departed reside. Since God is considered to be a spirit, not a physical being, his abode wouldn't be subject to the laws of our physical universe, beyond human comprehension. Religious texts often use earthly metaphors, like streets of gold, gardens, or cities, to describe heaven, not as literal descriptions, but to help humans understand a concept that is beyond their full comprehension. The Bible, for example, refers to a third heaven, which in ancient cosmology was a term for a realm beyond the sky, but it is generally interpreted as a spiritual experience rather than a physical ascent, a state of union with the divine. For many, the goal of the afterlife is not just to go to a place, but to achieve a state of union with God or a higher power. This focus is on a spiritual transformation, not a change in physical location.
I just wanted everybody to be happy, and I just wanted us to be able to communicate in time and space. And it's really difficult, and it's really upsetting to know that 3 days on Earth is like 20 years or 60 years in space. So somebody could be listening to me, and they could spend their whole life trying to hear what I have to say and not be able to give me their love the way they want to. And they could be floating around in space, guys. They could be floating around in space, picking up space junk and creating something, and not eating and not getting a blanket and waiting for the next word that I say and trying to pin it together, or picking up the radio waves of what I've said on a radio station some way. And they could be waiting to see me wear a sweater, and this isn't the sweater, because this is just a sheet, and I'm wearing a little top, and this sheet is the best that I got because it helps ground you. And this video is for Earth, but what if somebody is listening to me in space? I love you. I love you. It's all you can say. And what if somebody can only say I love you more? That's the problem. What if somebody can only say I love you more? What if that's the door? What if somebody can only say I love you more? Lord, I pray for our psychic connections. I pray for our technical connections. I repent. I ask forgiveness. I ask for help. I wanted to make communication to space for the human race. I want to represent space, but it's such a desolate place. What a what a true disgrace that we are sending people to space that don't come back or get worn out. I'm sorry that I don't talk faster for you, so that you can get everything you need to get from me, from you, from you, from you, from you, from me. Please, Lord, help us all to be in our destiny. Thank you. God bless you. Good night. Please don't give up the fight. Am I supposed to stay up all night because this is when the satellites can pick you up? This is when I can send my love? That when I sleep at night and they can't hear me, they think something's wrong, like it's an eternity? How awful if that's true. How awful if you have a clone that looks like you out there. How awful if your dad is out there not wearing his underwear. How awful are the suits that they can't take off. How awful is it that there are many places called Duluth in this country, and how many in space? We don't know. Thank you guys for watching the show and understanding that some of what I say is true and not true, and some is just entertainment for you. And some of it's from the heart, and some of it's me exploring, and some of me is working on a story for the glory of God, for the love of our hope. And the problem is, somebody could steal your money that you were trying to help the world with, and I'm asking to get it back on 100%. So I can still do whatever it is that I'm supposed to, or fix whatever it is that I'm supposed to, or change my plan to help more men, or to just be the one to spend all of your money to save just one that had their life undone. It would be worth it to me. That's what Yeshua did. He would have died for just one person stuck out there in eternity that's not safe, who doesn't have a bed, who doesn't have love, and doesn't know what it was said about him dying on the cross. So we want everyone to hear the gospel message and that love cannot be lost. In the end, these three remain: faith, hope, and love. And in the end, we ask that love remains. And we divorce the kingdom of darkness from making us look insane. We divorce the kingdom of darkness from taking away our love and our planes and fixing us to go to the stars or to Mars in ways that we should not be doing, because it's going to create big scars. Lord, can we be happy here on earth, eating our dirt and keeping up what we started here? What are we supposed to be doing out there? Can we have a prayer for all the men out and women out there? Can we bring them home? Or are they in great despair? Is what they have out there better than what we have here? Why are we always trying to go somewhere? This is the great frontier, but this is the great fear. When you had people riding to California for the gold rush, and Trump's relative had the hotel that floated on the water, and mining rushes, they basically created a slaughter. But in the end, we now have California, which is turned into a mess, and you cannot get anywhere on the 405, the 101, or anywhere else. Space might be open now, but what will we do if it turns a bigger mess than we've made the Earth? Everybody thinks they want to go to space, to have no pillow, to eat no jello, to not talk to their family, to not get a hug for 60 years. Can you imagine not being able to rub your foot for 60 years and how it would hurt? To not touch your skin, to have to stay in maybe a silver suit. I love you if you're in space. I send you grace and mercy Could you just hug a pillow and tell somebody somewhere that on Earth, in space, under the ground, someone in the human race, could you give them a pillow in your heart? Could you hold their love? Could you hold your love for them? What about the hospital beds that are bare, where people are crying and dying in there, and the old people's homes? And now we have so many places with Alzheimer's. There's a lot of places that are kind of like space, empty and dark and cold. Why do we have to go to space to die? Why do we have to go to space to lie? Why do we have to go to space and not try to tell the truth to know if it's a good idea or not? Is there a planet called Duluth? Who knows? I'm not the sleuth. Blessings. I love you. And good night.